Let's do a little bit of a different story about Rachel Dolezal. Rachel Dolezal, of course, the former NAACP chapter president in Washington State, who, in spite of being born to white parents, has identified as black for 32 years. I think she's 37, and she said she started identifying as black at age 5. And we've been having conversations about the implications of this and about the sort of fluidity of race and the socially constructed, I think would be the way to say it, nature of race and many other things. But there's another element to this story that hasn't been getting that much attention, which I think is an important lens through which to think of the story. And that's of Rachel Dolezal's parents, Ruth Ann and Larry Dolezal, who live in Montana and practice young earth creationism. This is a fundamentalist branch of Christianity that, much like some of the other extremist sects we've discussed, takes the Bible's stories about the beginning of the world literally. So young earth creationists believe that God created the world in 6 consecutive 24-hour days. Not 6 days representing 1,000 years each, Lewis, but 6 24-hour days. They believe that humans and dinosaurs once walked on this planet together. They believe that the earth is literally 6,000 years old. They believe that the Great Flood in the Bible is a historical fact and that Noah was literally 600 years old when he built an ark. They think that is a historical fact. And Larry Dolezal confirmed to HuffPost that he and his wife's religion played a huge part in their adopting black children, Ezra, Isaiah, Esther, and Zach. Quote, "We share a very strong faith-based pro-life conviction, and our older children shared that conviction with us at the time we adopted our 4 children. If you save children from abortion, we're willing to adopt them and raise them. It's putting our pocketbooks where our words are." And of course, there is nothing wrong with adopting children. Adopting children is a great thing, but it's not just about adopting children for the Dolezals. It's also about saving or redeeming them, as Joyce said. So, Lewis, I think that this is a very important element here to think about, particularly when there are also allegations that these children were being abused by the Dolezals. If you look at Homeschoolers Anonymous and what has been posted there, quote, "We have heard testimonies from numerous homeschool alumni who grew up knowing the Dolezal family that frequent and significant child abuse occurred in the family. The parents allegedly forced both Rachel and her older biological brother Joshua to beat their younger adopted siblings with plumbing supply line and 2-foot-long glue sticks, a practice inspired by Michael and Debbie Pearl's book, To Train Up a Child. And we've talked about that movement, Lewis, that movement that wants to impose this harsh physical discipline based on some perverted interpretation of God's desires. So this, I think, is very relevant to the story of Rachel Dolezal.
It's worth exploring. It's a new twist, and it sounds like this was quite a strange household. So we have to explore this.
And we could speculate about what role this might have played in influencing Rachel Dolezal's behavior. We could say, well, if she saw that her parents seemed so interested in these black children that they had adopted, could that have influenced her to want to adopt a black persona or a black presentation to the world? Certainly that's a possibility. Could it have been a factor that she felt guilt in some way because if these allegations are true, she was forced to beat some of her adopted black siblings, and that may have played a role, and it may have wanted her to fraudulently come up with these ways in which she was oppressed for her perceived black race. There are so many instances, so many different hypotheses we could come up with, but increasingly, Lewis, we are seeing all of the sort of trademarks that would lead to someone understandably experiencing significant emotional distress, completely aside from discussions of so-called transracialism and all of that stuff we talked about, race as a social construct. Let's put all of that aside for a second. All of the earmarks of a very troubling and disturbing childhood are here.
And what is the first thing you should do when you see that someone might be disturbed in some way or might have suffered some trauma, or you're trying to figure out why someone is the way they are, what do you do? Well, you look to their childhood. I think that's the first thing you do.
No question about it. So we will continue to follow this side narrative, which is, as I've mentioned, the entire story is incredibly fascinating. And as the more disturbing details now come up, alleged details about Rachel Dolezal's childhood, a lot more begins to surface, including many questions. Send us your thoughts on this. You can discuss it on our Reddit discussion forum at davidpakman.com/Reddit. That's REDDIT. We'll be back after this.